The 17 parts of a business letter are letterhead, dateline, special notation, inside address, attention line, salutation, subject line, body, complementary close, signature block, writer's name and title, reference notation, file name notation, enclosure notation, attachment notation, copy notation, and postscript. The corporate letterhead contains the company's name, address, phone number, fax number, email address, website, and logo. Business organizations should use letterhead stationery for the first page of a letter. The letterhead should use no more than 2 vertical inches of stationery space. Although a letterhead usually is placed at the top of the page, part of the information may be at the bottom, such as the street address and contact numbers. The date line usually appears 3 line spaces below the letterhead or no more than 2.5 inches from the top of the page. If the letterhead takes up little space at the top of the paper, spacing down only 3 lines will give an unbalanced look. For a short to medium letter, space down 2.5 inches from the top of the page. Take note of the following for the date line. First, use the current date, do not predate or post-date. Second, space down 6 to 9 lines to type the date, since most software programs give a 1-inch top margin. Third, view in print preview and adjust the date line so that the letter looks balanced on the page. And fourth, the month should be spelled out in full. Figures are not used for the month, like 06/21/21, because there is no universal agreement as to whether the day or month appears first. The dates may be in one of the following 2 styles, either June 9, 2021, so that's month, day, year, or day first, month, and then the year. Special notation. The following notations usually appear in business letters: personal, confidential, certified mail, urgent, fax transmittal. These notations are keyed in uppercase letters placed a double space above the inside address. It may also be placed a single or double space below the enclosure or attachment. The inside address contains the name of the recipient, his or her title, and the company name and address, as in this case. Space down about 4 lines from the date line before typing the address. For short letters, space down 3 lines. Avoid abbreviating the street addresses unless you are following a specific abbreviation system. Spell out suit and floor, especially when in doubt. Spell out the name of the state or country, or use 2-letter state abbreviations along with appropriate zip code. Type the abbreviation in capital letters and do not follow it with a period. Space 1 time between the 2-letter state abbreviation and the zip code, like in the case of Chicago, Illinois 60611. List the most specific information of an address first, a person's name, and the most general, the last, the state, the zip code, the country. If you are having difficulty ordering the information, think of the principle specific to general. Double space after the inside address, leaving 1 blank line space before the salutation. Use the inside address format on the envelope exactly as it appears in the letter, unless you are using the all-caps style with open punctuation, like in this case. Attention line. If a letter is addressed to a company rather than to an individual, direct your letter by using an attention line that contains the name of a person or department. Traditionally, the attention line appears a double space below the inside address. The preferred method today is to place the attention line as the first line of the inside address. Use the attention line on impersonal correspondences. For important correspondence, call to get the name of the person to whom you should address the letter. In this example, the letter is addressed to Finest Department Stores, but there is an attention line for the Pro Department because here the letter is intended for the Pro Department or its equivalent. However, you don't know or you're unsure whether the Finest Department Stores has such department or Pro Department. Hence, use the attention line. Salutation. The traditional greeting for letters starts with Dear. Start the letter with Dear, title, last name, or Dear Client Representative if the addressor's name is unknown. For business correspondence, salutations are always followed by a colon or a comma if it is a social business letter or no punctuation at all. After some contact, you can demonstrate familiarity by using the person's first name like Dear Albert, colon, rather than title and last name like Dear Mr. Clark, colon. Do not combine the title such as Mr. or Mrs. or Miss with the first name, such as Mr. Elmer, no. Nor combine Sir or Ma'am with the surname like Sir Brabante. It should be Mr. or Mrs. or Miss with the last name, like Mr. Brabante. When writing to a high-ranking government official or titled individuals, check the Gregg Reference Manual, which covers many more specific salutations. After the salutation, double space, that is one blank line, before starting the body or typing a subject line. The subject line should use no more than 2 line spaces. The subject line usually appears a double space below the salutation. Simplified letter style suggests putting the subject in all caps and centering it 3 line spaces below the address. The colon after subject is optional, like in this case. Use in re or subject if you prefer. These terms are commonly used for legal correspondence. Double space, that is 2 line spaces, after the subject line for a block letter. Triple space, that's 3 line spaces for a simplified style. We have a separate discussion on the body, but in summary, the body of the letter can be as short or long as necessary to convey the message. The introductory paragraph connects your reader with your purpose. Allow yourself to sound as if you are one human being communicating with another. Keep your writing friendly and avoid canned phrases. The body paragraphs contain the information, explanation, and other relevant details. That is, the body contains the details and provides examples if needed. The closing paragraph states the required actions. For letter longer than 1 page, use a second page heading with either the name of the addressee or the page number or the date. Leave 1 line space between paragraphs. In government correspondences, each paragraph is numbered for easy reference, especially for the replies. Complementary clause. Business letters are formal and use complementary clause. Type the complementary clause double space below the last line of the body. For business letters, use sincerely or sincerely yours and comma if the salutation ends with punctuation. Space down 4 lines from the closing to the writer's name so that the writer has space to sign. Do not use respectfully yours or respectfully nor truly yours to close your application letter. Close your application letter with sincerely yours. An employee's letter addressed to a top executive normally closes with respectfully yours or respectfully. An employee's letter addressed to an immediate supervisor or to a colleague normally closes with truly yours. Signature block. Use a company signature to emphasize that the letter represents the views of the company as a whole, not just the individual who wrote it. Type the company name in all caps, a double space below the complementary clause. Writer's name and title. Type the writer's name 4 line spaces below the complementary clause or the company signature if used, leaving enough space for a handwritten signature. For formal correspondence, it is recommended to use a title typed on the line below the name, double space before a notation or postscript. Reference notation. Type 2 line spaces below the writer's name and title. The reference notation is needed only if the typist is not the writer, say the secretary writing for the manager. In other words, it is the typist or clerk who prepares the letter on behalf of somebody else. The notation is usually marked by the typist's initials, first name or last name, as in these cases. File name notation. Documents created with word processing software sometimes need a file name so that they can be easily retrieved from storage. Follow your company's guidelines for creating file names. File names usually have 3 components: a name, a dot used as a separator, and an extension consisting of 1 to 3 characters like brochure.123. Usually the name of the folder in the computer and the computer number is the file name notation. Place the file name notation below the reference notation or initials. Enclosure notation. If you are sending something with a letter, include an enclosure notation. State in the body of the letter the documents you are enclosing. The notation at the bottom of the letter is just as much for your benefit as for the recipients. This notation reminds you to make sure the enclosure is sent along with the letter, list the items, or specify the number of enclosures. Compared with an attachment, enclosures are not stapled nor clipped with the letter. Enclosures are bulky items or items that are not allowed by law to be enclosed in a letter, such as a check or a bulky contract. Attachment notation. When clipping an item to the letter, use the attachment notation instead of the enclosure notation. State as well in the body of the letter that you are attaching the item to the letter. Examples of items that may be attached to the letter are resume, curriculum vitae, and abstract. These are integral to the letter. Copy notation. A CC or courtesy copy notation appears on all copies and indicates to whom copies of the letter are being sent. Some people prefer to use C rather than CC, as these examples. On the other hand, a BCC or blind copy notation appears only on its recipient's copy and not on the original or on courtesy copies. The addressee is unaware the BCC was sent. This is usually indicated for confidentiality and security reasons in legal or investigation cases. And postscript. A postscript or PS has been traditionally used for afterthought. Hence, it rather not be used in business letters. However, there are instances when the writer needs to deviate from the formal tone of the body of the letter and indicate a message that is rather personal or off-topic.